Hello and welcome to the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester and thank you for joining us for episode 154. Tonight we'll give you our player and match analysis for Wolves' 2-0 home defeat to Bournemouth. We're talking about it in depth. Take your questions about our meeting with Nathan Shi and his team that took place on Thursday evening. Take some of your questions, which are mainly about that, and look ahead to Saturday afternoon's game against Chelsea. Delighted to have always as our captain, Noki. Good evening. And I'm delighted to welcome back once more our latest addition, Nui, that joined me on Thursday evening for our meeting at Molineux. Noki, we'll start off with you. I'm not sure this is going to be fun, but we'll have to do it anyway. Wolverhampton Wanderers 0, Bournemouth 2.
Having seen some of the comments and listened to Dazzy's football phoning on the way back from the game, I feel like I watched a different game to everybody else because everyone seems really positive about this defeat. I was really disappointed. I was really upset coming out of the ground. I thought first 20 minutes we're in the game. I think we're probably the better team. They scored, and then mentally I felt like we completely collapsed. For the rest of that first half, we struggled to really get out. They started dictating play. They started dominating the ball. And then second half, I think there's an argument we improved. We managed 7 shots on target, but 6 of them you're probably going to throw your cap on, and the other one is a tap in from 5 yards that we've managed to miss. That's a really poor away side that we faced. I think they've won a game away from home since August. They've conceded loads of goals in the last few away games, and we didn't really lay a glove on them. I felt that the setup was wrong. I don't like Gomez and Andre together, and I certainly don't like them in a game like this. I just felt we were really poor. I don't think we got into them. I don't think we were we saw the determination that we've seen in previous games where we get into teams and we're physical and we're a little bit more dominant. We try and squeeze the play a little bit. I didn't see any of that. I thought Bournemouth were in second gear for most of the game. The first goal, I think, is poor from our perspective. We've given the ball away stupidly. And the second goal, we've allowed a 19-year-old kid to just whiz past us and put a ball across the face of goal. So I was pretty disappointed with it. I feel like I'm in the minority, having looked on Twitter and seen Nui's face now. So I think I'm probably in the minority. But for me, I was really disappointed. I think the work that we've done in the last few weeks, the improvements that we've seen, I didn't see any of that. And you can take the chances into it, and I'm sure we will. And maybe I'm being a little bit harsh, but from what I saw of that game, I was really disappointed. I was disappointed with the output. I was disappointed with the way that we played. The substitutes were far too late, and they were the wrong substitutes for me. I just felt that collectively it didn't work. But maybe that's a bit of a shine to the good job that Rob Edwards has done, is the fact that I'm disappointed that we've come away with another defeat. But yeah, for me, I didn't think it was the performance that other people seen, but stand to be proved wrong.
Yeah, all about opinions, and I think I'm leaning more towards your opinion. But Nui, to add some balance from a slightly different view, your take on Wolves' 2-0 home defeat.
I think if we take our chances, we're talking about a completely different performance and a completely different game, and I think that's the story of our season ultimately. I think Bournemouth, the only difference between Bournemouth and us yesterday was that they took their chances. And they finished them well. Granted, the first they were given that opportunity by us, but we hit the post. Strand Larsen should be doing better. Tolu should be finishing a couple of opportunities as well. So I think that the scoreline flatters Bournemouth. I think it tells the wrong story. I think so. Yeah, I mean, it's just frustrating because I don't think we've had any luck all season in terms of anything kind of happening for us in front of goal, and it's just a continuation of that again. So yeah, really, really annoying, really frustrating. But I think there were some decent performances within that that weren't too bad. I think Mane was obviously unlucky with his offside goal as well. But I think the other story on Mane, I'm sure we'll get into it in a bit, is we spoke about this a few weeks ago. He's getting doubled up on now in the Premier League. People are seeing the opportunities that he's getting and what he's doing, and a lot of the stuff that he was doing really well for us. I'm not saying that he's doing badly, but a lot of the stuff that he was doing well for us is just being thwarted now. So we need to stick with him. There's still a great player in there, but we just need something new, and I'm not sure where that's coming from right now.
probably won't see that this season. Well, we might do, according to some of the rumours today. I think we might see sort of mixed up a little bit. But what I really find interesting, guys, quite often, most people are on the same page, but this is a game that really split opinions. Now, people were quite upset about my tweet post-game, and some people were on board with it. But sometimes there's a game that produces this where people see it different. And I think Nocky made a really good point is I think standards were raised that much recently with some of the performances. I don't think we saw that. Yes, we had a few opportunities. Yes, we scrambled them with effort and getting into good positions. But I don't think that was the kind of performance that would have been produced recently. Certainly West Ham, certainly some of the away games. I thought Wolves were decent until Bournemouth scored. Then I thought Bournemouth had more gears. But the biggest thing for me, Nocky, I thought there was a difference in confidence and shape and quality. Well, we know that because they took their chances. We did have chances, but they took theirs. The difference for me was there was an established Premier League team that were flirting with the top half of the table compared to a team that really lacked quality in the final third.
Yeah, and you're right. It does split opinion, and not many games have done that for us this season. We've generally been pretty terrible, haven't we? So I think it is a reflection on the work that's been done by Rob and his team. They just seemed like they had more energy than we did. They seemed like they were fitter. The movement was better. They transitioned from back to front more effectively than we did. And I think stats don't always tell the story. That would have been really a perfect away performance, wasn't it? You soak up a bit of pressure, you break, you score your 2 goals, you take the game away from them. But it just felt like they had a level of control in the game that we didn't have. I didn't really see us having a huge spell of sustained pressure. I didn't feel like the goal was coming, which you normally do in a game like that when you're putting teams under pressure. I didn't feel like it was ever coming for us. And I kind of was expecting that second goal. And as I say, I might have been it doesn't help that I'm sat right by the Bournemouth fans, who are one of the strangest fan bases I've ever met. So that probably got in my head a little bit. But it was just, for me, it was just a bit of a frustration of what I expected for the game. Because on the podcast last week, I said we'd lose 3-1. That was what I thought would happen. But then first 20 minutes, I felt we could go and win the game because I didn't see anything from Bournemouth to frighten us. They didn't look like they were too dangerous. But it just felt, I think the most disappointing thing was when that ball at the back of the net for the first goal, it was almost a collective drop of the shoulders from the players. And they were out the game then for that first half. They never recovered from it. And yes, we did get better in the second half, but it just felt to me, if we'd have scored, they'd have gone again. It felt like they had more gears to go through, and they felt just fitter, faster, better options than we had. It just, yeah, as I say, I may be being a bit harsh, and I'm willing to accept that myself, but just from what I saw on that pitch, I came out of the game really upset and really disappointed that we'd lost the game in the manner that we did.
Yeah, no one likes losing, Nocky, and you're a bad loser. I'm a bad loser. And I know he's definitely a bad loser. We hate losing. We're football fans. We want the best for our football.
We used to it, really, though. Shouldn't we supporting this?
Well, we should be. It doesn't make it any easier, though, does it? When we always have that little bit of hope. But one of the big differences for me, Nui, was, and this is not like a knock on Joe Gomez or Andre, because they're not that kind of player, but how easy Bournemouth kept finding that pass. When they had the opportunity, there was that creative edge. Whether their runners were smarter, because they were sort of used to that sort of pattern of play, but I always felt like Alex Scott was like a yard ahead. Now, I'm sure he enjoyed his goal because there was a deal in place when Julian Lopetegui was here. He was supposed to become a Wolves player. You'll have to ask Jeff Shea about what happened to that one. But they had that bit of class in the middle of the park. I like our holding midfielders, but they're not going to open a team up. And that's the difference with us this season. We've just taken that little sort of Cunha, Sarabia creativity. We don't have anyone who can do that. And games like yesterday, it's badly exposed.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Obviously, as you said, Alex Scott will have enjoyed it. Is that the first time he scored against us? I'm sure he scored against us before.
I'm not sure if he scored for Bournemouth against. No, I don't know. I can't remember.
Most people haven't, though. So there's a pretty good chance.
Exactly. Yeah, most of the Premier League have at this point. So yeah, I mean, it's obviously disappointing, but I think there's a confidence that comes from, they beat Liverpool in their last game. I think they were coming into it, even though they're away, form isn't great. They're obviously playing bottom of the table. They're going to have a little bit of confidence. They're going to knock it around. They're going to be a little bit sharper than us. And when that goal goes in, I mean, great finish. To be completely honest, great finish from them. It just absolutely knocked the wind out of our sails, really. And that's when you do see the kind of Wolves side that we've seen all season. Shoulders drop, heads go down. and it takes to get into kind of half time and kind of see where we go. So yeah, it's frustrating. I don't know how many more times this season I can say frustrating, and annoyed and disappointed and lacklustre. But these are all the things that are associated with Wolverhampton Wanderers right now, and there's just nothing that is going our way. Whether it's an offside call for Mane, whether it's hitting the post, whether it's missing a unbelievable chance, just nothing's going our way.
Yeah, we quite often say, especially now, you have to make your own luck. But it does feel like Wolves have been on the wrong end of everything, because we've seen a lot of screamers fly past us this year. Now, whether that's just unfortunate, whether you're going to look at the goalkeeper, or whether that's just where we're at, and whether unfortunately we're allowing teams into positions where they can get a clean strike of the ball and we should be closing better. Who knows? But I'm going to move away from the Bournemouth game quickly after I've gone through the team, because there's a bigger section that I think people were more interested in, because we're talking about another defeat. But let's just quickly go through the team. Nocky, there's not really a lot, is there, we can say about Jose Sarr. I'm not going to blame him, because I thought that was an absolute howitzer for the first one. It was an absolute monster strike. When it connects like that, I don't think anyone can stop them.
No, to be honest, I did think at the time he should have saved it, and I was blaming him. But having seen it back,
you said he should have caught it, didn't you?
Yeah, I think I was probably being a bit harsh because he's hammered it past him. No, I don't blame Sarr for that. That should have been stopped at source. There was a terrible ball given away. I think it was Andre. And it's not the first time we've shot ourselves in the foot this season. I don't think he had loads to do other than that. His kicking was okay. The second goal, he can't do anything about that. That ball across the face of goal, you can't defend that. And certainly as a goalkeeper, you can't stop it. So I think he was okay in what he did. They were just ruthless with the chances they had.
Yeah, they were ruthless. Nui, Emmanuel Agbadou, I think there is a really good footballer there, but that footballer looks a long time gone. And his inclusion only made me realise how much we miss Krejci and what a good job he'd been doing in recent weeks.
100%. There's probably going to be quite a lot of these players that I say don't want to be here, but he is absolutely top of that list. He hasn't wanted to be here for a while. He's got no interest. But yeah, like you said, missing Krejci. Do you know what? I don't want to really talk about players that don't want to be here and haven't got an interest in being at the club. Whether we'll be stuck with him, come the close of the window tomorrow is another thing. But let's see.
If he wasn't playing for Besiktas by the weekend, I'd be really surprised. Nocky, let's move on to two players that probably deserve a little bit more attention. The crazy Yerson Mosquera that was absolutely nailed on for a booking, and Santiago Bueno.
Yeah, I thought Yerson was a bit quiet, actually. He wasn't his usual lunatic self.
Just the one booking.
Just the one, yeah. But Bueno was pretty good. He's got a nice calming feeling about him, hasn't he? He's very much Kevin Foley. He's 7 out of 10 every week. He's never let us down. I thought Yerson was okay. Linked up well with Rodrigo early on, but I don't think we got Rodders forward nearly enough in the second half in particular. But I thought they were relatively solid. They're up against a bit of pace, but they managed that quite well. So yeah, it's hard to be too critical of those two. But I do agree with Agbadou. I thought he looked like a player who didn't want to be there. I mean, there's one point where he just fell over the ball and gave a corner away. That's a player who doesn't want to be there. So when we knew players like that, you've got to get rid.
Absolutely. Nui, moving on to Rodrigo Gomez at right wing back and Hugo Bueno at left wing back.
Shining lights, to be honest. I think there's definite players in there. I think they've both got a little bit of a mistake in them. I think Hugo's come tremendously though this season. I just think that we're just a little bit slower to the ball on the wings at the moment. We're not necessarily getting it out there as quickly as we could. But again, it's a confidence thing, isn't it? But I think that they will be extremely important parts of our team next season. So yeah, well happy with those.
Yeah, if we're playing wing backs next year, because Rob strikes me as a 3 centre half guy, and I think this is the plan going forward. If Wolves have got Rodrigo Gomez and Hugo Bueno next season in those positions, I think that's very much a positive thing. Again, we've seen Hugo. We've got the best out of Hugo when he's had a relationship with Krejci, but I think we need a bit of balance. Sort of, I don't know if that'll be Krejci, but yeah, it's great to have those two guys. Now, I hope if we've got them next season, it's going to give us a real chance, because that's for me, would be high quality. in the Championship. Nocky, moving on to the 2 holding midfielders. 2 more bookings, of course they did. If no one bet that treble, I mean, that's the nailed-on betting treble, isn't it, for Wolves? If you're betting bookings, but on to Joe Gomez and Andre Nocky.
Before that, do you expect Hugo to be here next season?
I'm not sure. I think there'll be a Bournemouth kind of. I know he was linked with Bournemouth earlier in the season when we signed Muller Wolf, but obviously then Hugo upped his game and come in. There's a chance. I mean, what do Wolves sell Hugo for? 10, 15 million pounds, something like that. I think if he wanted to go and that offer came in, he probably goes. I mean, you could say that about pretty much everyone, and I mean, we'll go on to that more later on. But whether you like it or not, regardless of the contract, everyone's for sale. And if the player doesn't want to be there and the money comes in, that transfer will happen. And
but do you feel that he wants to go? I don't see that.
He doesn't. I mean, what they all got 25-30% discounts, reductions in their discount wages, reductions in their wages. That'll maybe hurt some more than others, some of the lower earners. I don't know. He's somebody that seems to like a really good pro, a really good guy. But let's not forget Hugo Bueno was putting balls in the Dutch league and playing in the Champions League last season. So he will have his suitors. Nocky's probably got a really good point there. So if we've got wing-backs and Hugo's one of them in the Championship, I think Wolves will have a really good weapon on the left-hand side. But let's see. Nocky, on to Andre and Joe Gomez.
I thought they were poor, especially in the first half. Gomez give the ball away, took a couple of rash tackles, and he ran around like a headless chicken and kept giving fouls away. I thought it was a pretty poor performance. Andre, I've been disappointed with him for a few weeks. I don't think those two work together. You can play him in games where
when we're inferior at playing a really good team, I think it works. That's what they play together. I
agree. If you're playing a City, United, teams like that, you want those two in there for stability. I don't think it works other than that. I don't think they complement each other. They drop us back 5 or 10 yards because they're both looking to get the ball and offload it. There's not a forward pass in, between them. You're hoping Mane dropping into his position is going to allow you to do that. But as Nui said, we're being doubled up. So we're almost taking that away from him now. So, I don't think those two work. I was really disappointed with their performance. I think they struggled. They had a little bit of a run around in midfield. Improved slightly, maybe in the second half. But I thought collectively those two were really poor.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because if you take the one creative player that travels from midfield out of the game, when Joe Gomez and Andre aren't natural sort of creators there, he's going to blunt them. And I think Wolves did look a little bit of bland because of that. And then when they did get in the final third, there wasn't a lot going on. But Nui, on the subject of Matheus Mane, one of his quieter games. But for me, he faced Bournemouth aren't really known for this, but Bournemouth looked to me like a team with pace. They were strong, they were mobile. And when you got the ball, you didn't really get any time to breathe. They were a team that looked very physical. And I don't like Bournemouth or any opposition, but that's to be admired because they don't let you get looking anywhere.
Yeah, I think his link-up play was good as always, but it just seemed that he didn't have as much time on the ball. And you can still see what he's trying to do when he comes in on the kind of the edge of the box and he's trying to get that shot off. He just didn't have the time to be able to get that done. But again, I think that obviously he's going to have his suitors. I'm surprised. I'd be surprised if there wasn't an awful lot that were already in for him this window. But and I'm sure we'll get onto it later on in the podcast. But I think it's critical that we kind of keep him. The difference is whether he's going to have his head turned by his agent, by whoever else is out there that's kind of whispering in his ear about what the possibilities could be like for him. But I think he was solid again. I just think we can't rely just on an 18-year-old to be able to do what we need right now.
Well, saying that when we have been relying on him because he's been not a turning point in our season, but gaining a little bit of respect back and giving a little bit of enjoyment to our games. It's taken a lad from the development side of things that's really exposed how bad this recruitment has been. And that's not a slight on Mane because he's been magical. The stuff he did at Man City later in the game, the goal against West Ham, the goal at Everton, fantastic. And hopefully he's here. But as we know, everyone will be for sale at some point. Nocky, moving on to the front two of... I'll start off with Tolu, to be honest. Now, I'll start off with Tolu. I thought he was all right, but I think he's got to take his chances better. But the most annoying thing for me was when he was winning the ball, nobody was near him. If you've got a 6'6" centre forward, you need someone to play just next to him or just behind him to feed off the carnage he's causing. No one was anywhere near him.
Yeah, and I'll talk about Tolu because I'm not going to talk about Hwang. He shouldn't have been in a show. He's a disgrace. But I think Tolu, I like him. I like his physicality. For 23 million quid, I want more in front of goal. Chances like that, you finish that. I don't care whether it's coming across quickly. You bury that. You don't give the keeper a chance. You don't put it straight at him the way he did. I want to see him more physical aerially with balls in the box. I want to see him breaking into better positions to receive those crosses. I want more from him. If he was here next season, great. I don't see any way that he will be. There's clearly a decent player there. I think what you need with the Tolu, you've got to get people closer to him. Hwang won't do that for you because he runs a blind alleys, but I want players closer around him, give him something to feed off. He was okay, but he was just very deep for me. He didn't help us get up the pitch, and he didn't impact them the way that a big physical lad should have done. So again, similar to the rest, I was quite disappointed with him.
Nui, last but not least, Hwang Chan. I'm going to open this conversation is with who's putting Hwang on free kicks, because that's happened a few times now. It's bad enough he's on penalties because his penalty record is awful. I think he scored one this season, but he's missed for Korea. He's missed for us. He missed in pre-season. He hit the post. This was not a good game, and I have no idea why someone that doesn't strike the ball particularly well ends up managing to convince a team of some international footballers that he's the one to take a free kick.
I know I'm not going to fit in very well here with the general opinion.
Oh, Nocky, mute your microphone, for God's sake.
Hwang. I think he's one of the scapegoats of this season for me. I think his work rate is high. He's obviously not the greatest of footballers, but actually I think he's one of the players that's showing for me. That he at least wants to try and he wants to do something. He's not the greatest. You're right, on free kicks he shouldn't potentially be there, but he was looking to stretch the play. He was looking to kind of find that killer ball, but I guess that's the issue, isn't it? We haven't really got the time to be waiting for something like that to finish. So I feel really bad for him. Like I think there is a player in there, but he's the scapegoat. He's the one that gets booed. He's the one that gets applauded whenever he's taken off the pitch. So yeah, I do feel slightly sorry for him, but it's just another one of those things, isn't it? I can't see him being here next season anyway.
No, someone sent me a message said if it takes getting relegated to never see Hwang again, then it'll be worth getting relegated. May have a point. I don't know who sent me that, but
I just felt like I needed to give some balance here.
No, that's absolutely fine. But I'm going to give you more balance, Nui. Up until Bournemouth scored, I thought Hwang was doing okay.
Yeah.
But what happened was then around that time, he gave the ball away, and it's almost his first mistake, and his confidence was completely gone. And then the ball was bouncing off him, and then he was misplacing passes. I thought as a team, there was some decent football in that opening 30 minutes, and we were doing okay. But as soon as that goal went in, we dropped off, confidence has gone, and quality levels and standard levels dropped. So, yeah, Hwang started the game okay. As soon as he misplaced that first pass, it was shocking. I mean, I've never seen anybody try to be so afraid of getting a free kick not on target. He's hit it straight down the middle, clipped it in like a pitching wedge. It's just, Hwangy, what are you doing? But again, Nocky, I'm going to make you talk about it a little bit. Remember, we are a family show. It's real exposure of how bad our recruitment has been when Hwang gets picked week in, week out, because as it stands, there isn't really any other options for anyone else to do that.
Yeah, and I think his lack of options is the reason he stays in the team. And Nui's right, he does work, he does run, but he doesn't do anything effectively. He doesn't run with intent, he doesn't pull into space, he doesn't open up the defence. I just think he's very clumsy in possession. Defensively, he frightens the life out of me. I just don't see any benefits of Hwang being in the team. We saw it last season with Marshall Monetsi. He was in the team because he made Strand Larsen better. He opened up space for Strand Larsen. He allowed opportunities for Larsen. So he stays in the team. I don't see that from Hwang. I don't see any benefit. Maybe for the first couple of games when Mane broke in, he was able to create space for Mane to run into. For me now, he purely plays because he's lack of options. I think if you've got a Rodrigo who could play there, if you've got somebody, Mane, who could play further up, I don't think there's a chance in hell that Hwang keeps his shirt. But look, it's about opinions, football, isn't it? We all see things differently. And if that's how Nui sees him as an effective player, then that's fine. I'm not going to tell you wrong. It's just an opinion, isn't it? But for me, what I see of Hwang is a player who doesn't affect us in the positions that he should affect us, doesn't create goals, doesn't score goals, and he's always likely to give something away that costs us.
Yeah, I think there's an effort. I think there's someone that genuinely cares, but I also think there's someone that's on huge wages, and I expect a lot higher standards for someone that's one of our owners. Again, people can't help if they're not good enough, but I'll keep going back. Wolves were offered 20 million like 2 years ago. And it's just another one of the most ridiculous mistakes that we've made. Does he try his best? I think he does, but he's way off it, Nocky.
If we signed, and there's a question to both of you, if we sign Adam Armstrong today or tomorrow, who'd you start up front if we play a 2 against Chelsea?
Oh, he comes straight in. He absolutely comes straight in.
So we're saying that Hwang...
The guy can finish.
So Hwang, who's been in the Premier League for 5 or 6 seasons with us, we're going to replace him instantly with a £7 million footballer from the Championship. That probably tells you the level that Hwang's playing at.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm
just sitting here sticking up for Hwang because it's been a week of abuse from football Twitter on for me. And I might as well just get some more.
Yeah, I don't think it's not. I never boo a Wolves player off anyway. And when a player's in the shirt, I'll back him 100%. But seeing him the way I see him, I'm disappointed when he's on the team sheet, but I also expect him to be there because we've got nothing else to play in that position. Hence the reason we're into February and we're sat, so we haven't even broke double points yet this season. So he's not alone. He's not. One thing I will say about him, he doesn't hide. I think there's been players this season, John Arias, players like that earlier on in the season, who were hiding. Hwang's never done that. But the quality is what I'm worried about. And yes, he puts in a lot of effort. You could grab a bloke, a woman, anyone from the South Bank, stick them in the team, and they'll give you effort as well. But it's the quality factor that we need. If we're going to break Derby's record...
I'm not recommending we grab any woman or man from the South Bank, just for real clarity for the Wolves report.
But you need players who are going to influence and impact the game. We're in a desperate situation now. We've regressed. We had 4 games where we were relatively good and we're picking up some points. We now look like a team that's very vulnerable again. We've got to get past Derby's record. None of us want to go into the next season on the back of breaking that record with no momentum. We need players now who are going to give us momentum ready for next season. Hwang's not going to do that.
This is episode 154 of the Wolves Report with Nui, Nocky and myself, Ryan Lester. I think that just about covers it for the game. We don't need to cause ourselves any more pain with that. As always, we stream live. You can catch it up on X, Facebook, YouTube and Spotify, if I can remember what I'm talking about, because I'm reading 2 things at once. See, this is the beauty of doing it live. I almost forgot what I was doing on my own show. Let's talk about the next section, which I'm sure some of you will be interested about. Now, I joined Nui and a few other fine gentlemen on Thursday evening to meet Nathan Shi, Max Fitzgerald, Matt Jackson, Matt Wild and Dave Wood at Molyneux for a meeting. You'll have probably seen the group of the logos at the top. I'll go pack the Wolves Report 1877, Talking Wolves, Always Wolves, Wolves Fancast, the Wolf Whistle, Punjabi Wolves, Wolfpack and the 1877 Trust all followed Nui into the protest ahead of the Manchester United game, which proved to be very successful. I guess the kind of unofficial aim was to out the chairman, who eventually outed himself. We were successful in that. As a result of that, the club invited us in to open talks, which we are very grateful for. Thursday, Nui, a really, really interesting night. Now, I've had so many questions on it, but first of all, I just wanted to, I know you've talked on other podcasts about this and probably multiple radio stations as well, but I just wanted to get your take on Thursday evening, first of all.
Yeah, I don't think I've had so many questions thrown at me in the South Bank yesterday. You know, so many people coming up to me and asking different things about, you know, how it went. And I think that the first thing to say is it was nearly 3 hours worth of kind of chat. You know, it was a long evening. it started out as cold as you would expect it to. But actually, for them to be able to sit down and get a good understanding about Nathan and try and kind of feel out his understanding of Wolverhampton Wanderers, try and get a little bit of understanding about his background and everything that's going on at the club at the moment, and try and kind of piece together what he wants to do, where he wants to go. It was definitely interesting. There was a lot of things discussed, and there was a lot of passion that was thrown about in that room. There was no punches pulled really when it came to telling them exactly how we felt and the reasons that we protested in the first place and what we want to achieve. So I think for people that have been calling it a tea and cake party or whatever it is, that's long, I can assure you it wasn't. We only just got tea, to be completely honest. There was no pints, there was no food. It was very much straight to the point.
It was straight to business.
Yeah, let's get on with it, and let's get a good understanding about what it is that we need to achieve together to kind of go forward.
Yeah, I mean, Nocky, feel free to jump in. I know you wasn't there, but I'm sure you've got some questions as well. So I've got many questions here. So we'll start off with this one. Kev Taylor asks, what was your impression of the new board? Any mention of a director of football?
Yeah, so I think this was obviously a big thing for all of us. It's the first time that I'd met Matt Jackson. It's the first time that I'd properly spoken to Matt Wild, and obviously it was the first time that I'd met Nathan. And I think Nathan came across, really, really well. I think he's obviously very open about his knowledge in football. He said that he's a football fan. We should have asked really who he'd been following all this time, but he said he'd been following the Premier League for a long, long time. So I think it was really, really interesting to get that. When the director of football conversation kind of came up, Matt Jackson was sitting there like he was going to be thrown out of a job within seconds. But Nathan was really, really open about the fact that he doesn't necessarily potentially hold all of the keys to the football knowledge that he'll need, but he does feel right now that the team that he's got around him are advising him in the right way. He also said that if he needs to get somebody else in with a little bit more football experience, then that's absolutely the way that they'll look to go with it. The main overriding feeling that I would say of the kind of the new board, if you like, or the people that were there, it felt like the shackles were off. When we've spoken to people at the club before, it's kind of felt like that, they kind of looked at Jeff to make sure that they could talk first, whereas this was just an open forum. They felt that they could talk quite freely. They were also kind of batting things back to us as well if they didn't necessarily agree with something that we'd said, or didn't necessarily agree with the conversations that we were saying. When it came to some of the past decisions that Jeff had made, Nathan was saying that he was baffled by some of them, that he didn't understand. So these are all things that it's really, really difficult for us to be able to put out on a 3-page PDF that's a summary of a 3-hour conversation. We can't put absolutely everything in there.
You can't remember everything, and nobody can shorthand for 3 hours. So
yeah,
we're just 9 guys with podcasts and different things that we do for the football club. So there has to be a little bit of reality because we can't remember every single word. But we did our best, and I'm sure as time goes on, we'll try and get more and more stuff out.
Yeah, and I think that the final thing that was probably repeated an endless amount of times throughout the whole evening was actions speak louder than words. Don't tell us all of this stuff if you're not going to be able to deliver on it, either now or in the not too distant future.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that me and many other people mentioned as well was we're football fans. We don't like bad news, but we would prefer bad, honest news than offering us false hope with a promise or something that you're going to deliver in 12 months. So for me, the feel was telling them, I would rather you under promise and over deliver as opposed to over promise and deliver, because that's something that really got the last guy in trouble when he was promising this or promising that. And that just didn't work. Football fans, they won't always like the truth, but the truth is way better than a false promise. Is that a fair statement, Nocky?
Yeah, I think it is. And look, for me, I wasn't involved in this process. Obviously, this is you guys have driven this, and you've been a part of it. I think it's fantastic that we've got a voice, and it comes from fans with similar mindsets to the rest of us. It's not people who stand to gain anything by doing this. So I think you should all be commended for doing it. My nervousness around these kind of things is there's a risk of lip service. There's a risk of let's just try and stop the bleed in terms of the noise from the supporters. So I suppose it's where do we go from here? Because there's been I read the minutes that you put out, and there's comments around we want one season in the Championship, and whatever investment's required, we'll do that spend what we need to spend to get back. That is such a dangerous generalisation of a transfer window, because what you're essentially telling me is we're going to go down, we're going to throw 300 million at it, and we're going to get promoted. I don't like that wording. So are we going in there full hammer? Or are we going to go in there and do some sensible business? Because we're already now in the realms of false promises. If we go down and we spend 15 million next season and we finish 9th, 10th, 11th in the league, we're already on a poor footing with the new owners, well, the new chairman. So it's just understanding whether you believe what you were told and whether you think it was an accurate representation of what they were offering us. And I have some more questions, so please.
I think so. What else? I'll jump in with that one now, if that's okay. Right. What I would say to that is just emphasising, really overlapping the first bit. I said, I think openly, we admire your positivity, we admire your drive and your will to succeed and get us back to the Premier League in 18 months' time. But we can only believe what you say when those words become actions. That's when that becomes real. And I want you to say positive things, and I want to believe you. And the fans, there's a lot of fans out there are sceptical, including us. We wouldn't have had this meeting if we won the FA Cup. We're in this room now because things have gone terribly wrong, and we need to work together to move things forward. So, again, emphasising, and I look Nathan in the eyes, as everyone else did. Words are great. They need to become actions to build the trust again and to get this football club moving forward. No way.
Yeah, and I think the key thing is there's a definite lack of trust there, regardless of us meeting them on Thursday and having the meeting with them. That doesn't mean that anything has changed from a trust perspective. There's an awful lot that needs to be rebuilt, but this was step one in terms of opening up that engagement. And actually, the fact that they were so open to kind of having that conversation with us and being so kind of open to all of that does say an awful lot about potentially where they want to go. But again, I'll say it, unless we see actions, unless we see things changing, then things will go back to kind of how they were. And lots of people keep asking me about why did we stop protesting, why did we stop doing this? We've felt like they were on the ropes, and I think it's a really fair question. But actually, from our point of view and what we were looking to do, we achieved the number one goal that we wanted to kind of achieve in Jeff kind of going. And for us, I think there's lots of conversations that went back and forth around what we do and where do we go from here, and do we give it a rest, and do we kind of see if the players can kind of pick up some results and see what we can do there, and is it necessarily fair that we go all in on Nathan, who's just been picked to come in and do that job? And I don't think there's ever going to be a right or wrong kind of answer on that. We felt that we did what was right at the time. We got rid of Jeff, or he dug his own grave on that side of things. But actually, it was due to the power of the process and everything that we did there that enabled that to happen. So, they were very, very clear about our feelings on it. Sutty went on a really passionate rant for at least 5 minutes. Where they were all looking him dead in the eye around what he was saying, and it was really, really good to kind of hear him. And everybody had similar kind of parts throughout the evening, but Sutty's 5-minute rant to them, showing them exactly why this matters and the consequences of it of them not following through on what they were saying, was really, really good.
Yeah, really good. Nocky? Yeah, thank you for that. There was a mention of a step-by-step rebuild towards where getting back to where the club should be. Did they give you any kind of inkling of where the club should be, where where their heads are in terms of the kind of ceiling for Wolves?
I don't think they really gave a ceiling, did they? They eventually said they want it back in the Premier League, and it's obviously an ambition, not a promise or a guarantee, but trying to challenge for European football again, because if you've done it once, you can do it again. And there was obviously then talk of a relationship with George Mendes, how it's broken, if we're fixing it, that kind of stuff. So they didn't put a ceiling on Wolves. Now, what was questioned, and I really did enjoy it, was there was quotes from Jeff that was put to them, Nui, in terms of pretty much taking our dreams away. If you dream of this or that, Wolves aren't the club for you. We talked about that and how wrong it was. And got to be honest, Nui, Nathan was on our side saying, well, yeah, I don't agree with saying things like that.
Yeah, and his actual words were, and I'm not sure that he'll appreciate me saying this, were that he was baffled by some of the decisions that Jeff had made. He was quite open in the fact that, he's known Jeff for a long time, and that obviously they've worked together in the past, but that some of the decisions baffled him. I think it was interesting that the one kind of main kind of question that came up was, where do we want to be? Where do you see Wolves? And ultimately, he was saying Europe. He wants us to be back in the Premier League, and he wants us to be pushing on for Europe and for cups, which you would expect any chairman to be kind of saying. Whether or not it's going to be different is a different kettle of fish completely. I think we've got a really, really important few months ahead of us. I think there's a lot of decisions that could be made, and one of the other kind of key points that we kind of said is that relationship between the fans and the club, when it was at its best back in Nuno, when Nuno kind of first took over and Laurie was here, and obviously we had some very, very good times. We made some very, very exciting signings. The engagement between the club and fans because of people like Laurie was huge. Now, I'm not saying that I don't think there's anybody at the club that has the charisma that Laurie probably has, but that's not to say that they couldn't open up that engagement to kind of happen again. So yeah, we have to just wait and see though on that. But in terms of the kind of ceiling, if you like, there wasn't a ceiling as such that they kind of mentioned. The one thing that was mentioned is the 18-month thing to be back as a Premier League club, or to still be a Premier League club, because before Saturday, there is still the belief from Nathan that there's the possibility of us staying up.
But you would expect that.
Yeah,
you would. Kev, I'm going to move your question off. Thank you for being part of that. Noki, I'm going to put you on pause a second and let you recharge with your next angry question. There was a comment from Ryan, and I think it's, I'm not going to duck away from anything because I want to talk about it. Ryan M says, why are we being fed the same info by you and the other platforms that just had this opportunity to be with Nathan? Same rubbish. If this is all you can do, there really isn't much point. Well, as you would probably gather, Ryan, I strongly disagree. I am confident in saying that answers I didn't like, I questioned. Nui can confirm what the structure about Jeff Shi. I offered, they gave answers I wasn't sure. I returned fire by the shit. I asked about Jeff Shi being under the payroll still, and I asked about Jeff Shi by the sheer method of organisation of Fosun Sports and Wolves being underneath. I was like, well, that would make Jeff Shi the boss of Nathan. I was assured by everyone across the table and Nathan that wasn't the case, and just didn't accept the first answer. So, Ryan, to your point, I could understand that. I know that some people are never going to forgive Fosun and never forgive Jeff, and their trust is completely gone. I'm not asking you to believe them, but all I'm saying is we're trying our best, and genuine questions were answered. People gave up their days. The people sat across the table, it was their job. The people sat on our side of the table, me, Nui, and the other guys, we've done a day's work. We've gone to Wolverhampton and we asked some difficult questions. We're doing our best. It wasn't tea and cake. There wasn't even cake. I was pretty disappointed. But Ryan, I could understand why you would think that. That's your opinion. You're entitled to it. But I'm not going to duck anything off there because it's negative. Any comment on that, Nui?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I alluded to it earlier on. Obviously, we knew that we were going to get pelters for this in one way or another. And that's it. I'm not surprised to see that is the case. There is a lot of work that needs to be done to kind of rebuild that trust. But at the same time, the one thing that I want to make really, really clear is that the 10 groups that were in there, we don't see ourselves as better than any other fan. I'm not better than any other fan. I don't go to every single game. I work my hardest to be able to afford to take myself and kids when I can to the games. I'm not better than any other fan in that stadium, and I don't ever want to be. The only difference is I care to the point where I can't sit back and watch things that are going on. And because of the platform that I and the other people have, myself through Old Gold Pack and the work that we do there, is the only reason that I put my head above the parapet to come out and try and do something. And it was a really, really difficult decision, because doing things like boycotts and protests obviously aren't going to land you in the greatest books with some of the staff at the club, who are incredible. And obviously they have to then wind back on a couple of things that Old Gold Pack want to do, and the displays that we want to do within the stadium. So it was a tough decision, but I couldn't sit back and watch as things were just unraveling for another season. And that's the only reason that I've done this. I'm not better than anybody. I just want to be able to hold them to account. I want to be able to ask questions, and I want to be able to look them in their eye as they tell me all these things, because that's when we'll truly see whether things will happen in the future. And if they don't, they know the consequences that's coming from it. So to be able to read things like this is disappointing, to see that it's the same rubbish. And if this is all that you can do, there really isn't much point. It's a little bit offensive, to be completely honest, when we're taking our time out of our own days, out of our own schedules, not seeing our kids within an evening for 3 hours. Ryan, I don't think you got home until best part of midnight on Thursday. Yes, we want to do this, but to be saying that there isn't really much point, yeah, it's a little bit offensive, to be completely honest.
Can I come in on that? I think Ryan, he's kind of, the fan base is hurting at the moment. Collectively, we're hurting. You guys have stuck your head above the parapet, and you've become the people who can make this all better, because you can give us the information that the season ticket prices are going to drop. We're going to spend £100 million in the window. We're going to bring all these players in. So I don't think these are personal attacks. Some of them might be, because there's some right idiots on Twitter, as we know. But I don't think these are personal attacks. I think you have become almost the point of contact now between the fan base and the club, because you're the ones who can tell us exactly what's going to happen. You're never going to get all of the answers you want in an opening meeting with people who are going to be very defensive, because they don't want to give anything unnecessary away. So I think you should be congratulated and commended for what you're doing. I think anyone who is firing abusive comments, and I don't think that's an abusive comment, I think that's a man that's hurting like the rest of us. But I think the people need to understand it's very similar to moaning at the waiter in a restaurant that didn't cook your food. They're just giving you the answers. And this is a similar situation for me. You guys have stuck your head above the parapet. You're there to be shot at. You've given up your time. But unfortunately, now that you've done that, you're the people who are going to communicate better with the fan base than the club. So you're going to be able to tell me if things are going to get better. You're going to be able to tell me if I'm going to pay less money next season on the season ticket. And unfortunately, that's a position you kind of put yourselves in now. Yeah. But I think collectively, you should be absolutely congratulated and commended for what you've done, because without those protests, Jeff Shee's still at Wolverhampton Wanderers. Without those protests, there's no line of communication. So it is going to be a little bit of this. You're going to get these comments, but I think the majority of the fan base will thank you and congratulate you for what you've done, because without this, we're in an even worse position. I'm absolutely 100% sure of that.
Thank you very much. And Ryan, again, you entitled to your opinion. I'm not going to duck any questions on the Wolves report, because we want to talk about football. We want to talk about Wolves. You're not going to agree with us, and that's okay. So if you don't agree, put it up. We'll talk about it. Ryan, thank you for being part of the show. Nui.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's a fair reasoning from Nocky on that. It was. It's always going to be the case. We were expecting pelters, and I think I don't take any kind of personal offence to what's going on there, but it's hard when you kind of see things like that, because also at the same time it's text on a screen, or it's text on on an email or whatever it is. It's hard to read the tone. So if I have took it the wrong way, Ryan, with that, then fair enough. I'm happy for you to tell me otherwise, which I'm sure you will. But it is what it is. We put our head above the parapet. We are expecting questions. We are expecting people to come to us and want answers, and that's absolutely fine. If we weren't comfortable with doing it, we wouldn't have done it. So that's where I go with that.
Yeah, just to progress in a little bit more into the meeting before we take some more questions, which are great because they're questioning us, and I don't mind that because it gives us an opportunity to talk about it. What we did push for was a follow-up meeting. Now, that might sound like a simple thing, but it wasn't a simple thing, and we worked for that. And the question was kept and asked, and Nathan said, "Okay, then, so we're going to be able to go and ask these questions again in 6-7 months' time." When it's the start of the season, the transfer window's open, we can go back there. How is your progress with this? We can go back and hold them accountable and ask the same questions, ask for progress. We've done this. Look at what we've done. By that time, there should have been some physical actions and not words. Is that a fair comment, Noe?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the other thing, just to go on my other point about, it's us that we're in the room and we're asking the questions. One of the big things that we asked for was that accountability to the rest of the fan base that haven't necessarily got the capability to be able to kind of ask these questions directly. And one of the big wins from this is actually the fan forum thing that they're going to be putting together. They said that they'd been thinking about it for a while or something along those lines, but to have up to 200 people in a room that can submit their questions and that can get those questions and can look them in the whites of their eyes to be able to kind of see what they're saying, I think is a win for us. And it shouldn't be us that's asking the questions all of the time. And I'm quite happy to not go to that meeting and to let other people have a chance. And I think that's going to be really, really important, because the voice of the fans, the voice of the customers, as we called ourselves when Jeff were there. Ultimately, we are customers and we're paying for a product, and they should be able to listen to the feedback about the products that they're offering. So, one of the things that we wanted to be able to do was get other fans in there. And, all the people that are commenting in tonight and all the people that are watching, I would urge you to have a seat at the table, to try and get a ticket to this, to, put forward questions and to get your voice out there as well, because absolutely we will push to have your voice out there. And we are ultimately the voice of the fans at the moment. But ultimately, if we can get this fan forum through, which they agreed to and they said that they would get done, then I think it's going to enable a lot more of you to be able to get your voice out there as well.
And one thing that I suggested, and then during that sort of talking about the fans forum, was once you'd been to one forum, you'd use your ticket up then. Yeah. So that's potentially, if they did that 4 times a year, Nocky, that's potentially getting 800 different fans in front of the custodians of Wolverhampton Wanderers. That's something that's never been done before. So yes, it's not a massive win, but that is a proper opportunity to connect the fans who want a voice, that want to ask questions again. So I'm pleased that was agreed to, and I'm looking forward to it going forward.
Yeah, it's a line of communication that hasn't been there for a few years. And you mentioned Laurie Dalrymple. He's the last person who really had that communication with the fans and someone that he trusted. So the protest, everything we've done up to this point has led us to a position now where we have an open comms and we have an opportunity to get people into a room with them. And yeah, as you say, if we can get 800 people, if that can become a regular thing every year, there's going to be thousands of Wolves fans go through this process. So I think I think that is a big win, to be fair. I know you're playing it down, but I think that's quite a big win.
Yeah, thank you. Let's move on to a few more things. This is another sort of a question, but let's fire it up. David Wolf says, surely the numerous fan groups dilutes the power of such group. Has there been or will there be steps to amalgamate the groups? Now, well, listen, the podcasts on here, Old Gold Pack, the Wolves Report, 1877, Talking Wolves, Always Wolves, Wolves Fancast, the Wolf Whistle, Punjabi Wolves, Wolf Pack, and Wolves 1877 Trust. We've been given name of the Fan Alliance. Whether we like it or not, that's not relevant. I don't think that we do. But we've come together as one to really push. And we had a protest. And then there was the leaflets of our club that also sort of made the news as well. So I think a lot of these people still want to do their own things. I want to do my podcast. Everyone else. Newies guys do a great job of producing great displays and banners and flags. The other guys do great shows. I think we want to remain individual. But when it comes to putting Wolverhampton Wanderers first, we've shown that we can come together, and I don't think that dilutes it. I think that makes us stronger, because we're all doing our own shows, a slightly different thing, and we're all trying to contribute something different. Platforms where we can talk about our shared love, Wolverhampton Wanderers. It has been crap the last few years, and something needed to happen. Newey stuck his neck out and we came together. So I don't think there needs to be an amalgamation of those, because I think it's working as it is. Would you agree with that, Newey?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think the important thing to realise with all of this is that there is strength in those kind of numbers that, once they've kind of come together. And one of the other things, actually, because I've had quite a lot of people reach out to me saying, oh, why aren't, so and so involved, and why aren't, XYZ website or XYZ forum involved with it? And the truth is they can be involved. Absolutely everybody can be involved. If it means we add another logo to the letterhead or whatever it is that we need to do, maybe it is the fact that we just come up with one logo that is a part of all of these different organizations and that we look after. But also at the same time, there is an organization that's already in place that should be having this kind of conversation with the board. And we've got a fan advisory board as well. You've got the 1877 Trust that are there to kind of be that. However, there's strength in the numbers that we do. The first win that we ever had by coming together with all of this was the ticket pricing. That was the first time that we'd ever kind of come together. But I think it shows the strength of all of us in doing that. And actually, that's when the club started to prick their ears up and go, well, this isn't just Gold Pack, or it isn't just Ryan having a moan for the sake of having a moan, or it isn't just Sutty holding up a Taiwan flag. It's all of us coming together and showing, well, do you know what? On every single one of our channels, on every single one of our platforms, we can come out and we can talk about all the things that are annoying us or aren't necessarily agreeing with at the club, and that's where the strength has kind of come from. So I think there's two parts to the kind of amalgamation, if you like, but I think we'll always be our separate kind of things until we need to come together like this. And yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that I agree with the Fan Alliance title. It's a work in progress.
Absolutely. You can't choose what you call, though, can we, Newey? Davey Wolf, thank you for your question. Again, I'm not going to duck anything like this. I think it's important we talk about it. Nocky, on to your next question, please, sir.
No, I mean, I think for me, there was one statement that kind of put me back a little bit. Greater honesty and stability, moving away from a culture of covering for each other. Put some context around that for me.
I think they're basically admitting that previously, when the mistakes were made, everyone was just backing each other up and saying it was okay and covering, as opposed to telling the truth. Now, there was a section on telling the truth. I don't think those words were used, Newey, but there was a section on that. And I think this was these people, Nathan and Max and the two Matts and Dave, just being honest, basically saying it was wrong in the past. They got it wrong. We want to change it. We want to make it right. And we want to try and be as honest as we can. Again, that only happens when words become actual actions. So, and we made that really clear. But yeah, you can probably add a little bit more than that, Noah.
Yeah, I think ultimately there was a little bit of back and forth about us calling them liars and being lied to in the past, which Matt Jackson wanted clarity on, wanted to find out exactly what we were talking about and why we felt that we were lied to. And he wasn't pulling punches the same as we weren't. But there are obviously, whether you want to call it a false promise or you want to call it a lie, which I believe that they are, or they were, then obviously that's going to be down to kind of personal opinion as well. But I think I guess the point that the covering for each other was kind of covered with what I said earlier on. They were scared of Jeff. They didn't believe that anything that they necessarily wanted to do was going to be the right thing. And if Jeff said no, Jeff said no. They spoke a lot about fear nothing being something that came from Jeff, and wanting to kind of move it into people making their own decisions, but it felt like people were scared to make their own decisions, which is never going to be right for any business. Never mind a football club where you're trying to succeed and you're trying to get things done. but it genuinely feels like a cloud has lifted. And this was before the meeting that we had on Thursday. Obviously I spend a lot of time at Molineux pre-game, setting things up, and I speak to a lot of the staff that are there, some incredible staff, that I want to see doing really well. I want to see them not fearing for their jobs if we do get relegated or when we get relegated. And that was one of the key things that we have here. But it feels like a cloud has lifted at Molineux in terms of one person going. And they also made it very, very clear that Jeff is nothing to do with this football club. He's not making any of the decisions. He's not on the payroll. And over to Nathan now to see what he can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Nocky, does that give you a bit more clarity on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the last thing for me really on this is, do you believe them, and do you feel more positive after them talks?
Yeah, I'll start on that one. We made it really clear that we want to believe you, but we're not going to be able to believe you until you show us. As again, I keep repeating myself, saying wonderful things and promising and being positive is one thing. Did I feel there was sincerity coming from that side of the room? Yes. Did I feel like Newey said previously when they were frightened of what Jeff was saying, they were just agreeing with him? No, I think they had their own opinions. They're on the same page, but they were very talking from, they were happy to talk to themselves. It's not a high bar, what Jeff said, but Nathan already feels like he understands people more. He's more interested in people and culture and finding out what people need, finding out how we can do better. I don't think those words came out of Jeff's mouth in terms of talking about people. I think Jeff was interested in his own opinion and his projects, and that was it. It doesn't feel like that now. And again, I'm not blowing the Wolverhampton Wanderers trumpet, because time will tell if things will change. Do I feel more positive after the meeting than when I started? Yes. Do I want to believe? Yes. Am I going to believe? You're going to have to show me to make me believe.
Yeah, and I completely agree. Right now, it feels like trust has been broken in that relationship after a few years of ultimately not getting the stuff that we deserve. And it's been a rough ride with Jeff over the last kind of 3 or 4 years. However, the one thing that I would say that I kind of got out of the meeting or felt listened to was that they actually want to hear from what we're doing and what we believe might be the right things going forward. Ultimately, they're a business. They're going to decide on their plan, their strategy, and all of that. But one of the other really key bits that I want to make really clear is, Sutty and all of us asked for that 1, 3, and 5 year kind of plan and goals on where we want to go. So the 18-month thing was obviously covered, and we've covered that tonight as well. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where we go forward. But actually, I do believe that this will be the start of closer engagement between the fans and the football club. Whether or not anything happens from that, I'm still a little bit sceptical around, whether things will change. But you're going to be after you've been burnt. So absolutely, we are not puppets for Fosun or for Nathan or for anyone else that was in that room. We were just putting across our points on how we think that things should be run. And ultimately, I mean this in the most professional way, warning them about what will happen if that doesn't happen.
And this was made really, really clear, Nocky, particularly by Sutty, and his speech was great, and I know he's watching tonight, so yeah, that was fantastic. Newey made a decision. 4.5, 5 days later, there was a protest that was covered by Premier League worldwide. It was in the newspapers, it was on the radio. Newey's on the radio every 5 minutes. People wrote about it in the newspaper. It was everywhere. The power of one fan in a group taking the lead and the rest following, that was the start of the end of Jeff Shi. And it was made clear, really clear, we don't want to protest. We don't want to encourage people not to support the football club. We want the best, but you weren't listening to us. We're hurting. You're doing a bad job. It's going really wrong. You're not showing that you care. And it got to a point, and Newey stuck his neck out and we followed. And that was the power of the fan base. Some people laughed at the time, but look at the impact. The impact is Jeff Shee's no longer at the football club and there's someone else there. So we've got a couple of decisions can we make. We can write them off and demand that Fosun go out, or we can give them an opportunity. And that's down for you to decide, because it's really hard to win trust back. From what I gather, Fosun aren't going anywhere anytime soon. So if they are here, I want them to put it right and I want them to succeed. I don't want them to keep failing, because it's my football club and it's been miserable the last few years, particularly this year. So, yeah, Nui, can you follow up on that?
Yeah, I think there's obviously a number of things that were said during that meeting. A lot goes back to things that Jeff had said or Jeff had done in the past. Things like the investment, like they basically said, they're not looking for investors, they're not looking for anything like that, which goes against what Jeff said, just last season or a few months ago. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting time, but I also think that we need to give Nathan the opportunity to either fall on his sword or to deliver what he said that he's going to do. And right now, whether that's going to happen or not is I don't know. I can't tell you for certain. But the one thing that I would say is that they're very aware of what will happen. And the other point that I just want to make really, really quickly on that, and it goes to Ryan's point around how quickly we were able to enable the fan base to get up and get something done. For me, that can happen as quickly again. There's lots of people that have said, oh, like the protests won't, do anything, or we won't be able to get as much traction on it now, or if we're in the Championship, it's not going to get as much attention. I'm calling bull on that. It doesn't take much for us to be able to get together. The right message, the right tone, the right activation, and it can be done as quickly as ever. Social media is a wildfire at times. Once something gets a little bit of traction, then it's really, really possible for us to be able to do that. So what I would say is, don't necessarily think that, this isn't something that we could get back up and running as quickly as we did before, because there is still a lot of ill feeling, still a lot of distrust in the fan base. And, I truly believe that if we need to, we can absolutely do this again. Hopefully we don't need to. We don't want to be doing protests. We don't want to be doing this, because we want to back the team, we want to back the club, and we want to be able to see Wolverhampton Wanderers back in the big time and doing well again. But if needed, we're there, and we will do this again.
Absolutely. What was interesting, Nui, just picking up on that, the 18-month project, I think, was talked about, because that's the time that Nathan gave me the impression that he's going to be judged upon as well.
Yeah.
He's got an 18-month project to deliver, to make sure this time in 18 months, Wolverhampton Wanderers are a Premier League team. That's his project. And the vibe I got was, if he doesn't, then that'll be a failure and Nathan may not longer be there anymore. Is that a fair assessment, Nui?
Yeah, I mean, his actual words were, "It's my neck on the line." He's very confident. I'll give him that, and obviously that comes from succeeding within whatever businesses he's been a part of. He told us that he started out as an investment banker for Fosun all those years. He was Chairman Guau's personal assistant for a while, so he knows him really, really well. But he's obviously a very successful person. He's very articulate. His English is absolutely brilliant. But ultimately, he said that it's his neck on the line with all of this. And I think, he's not, is he 32, Ryan Nocky? I think he's around that age. I think it's a brave move for him to come to somewhere that, let's be completely honest, is quite toxic right now. And he's taken that move. He's moved away from Club Med and whatever he was doing at Club Med to come into a project. And he very much sees this as a project, and he's got this 18 months to be able to deliver on what he's told us. And so you have to give him that. You have to say fair play to him for taking on that opportunity. And let's see how it goes.
Absolutely. Last but not least, I mean, there's So much we could talk about, but I know it's going to be bedtime for you, Tom. We've got work tomorrow. But one thing as well I want to talk about that we really pushed on. But basically, what I would say is, if anyone's got any more questions, you can just drop me a tweet, drop me something on X. It's fine. I'm not going to shy away from anything at all. But what I want to do to talk about is how much we pushed on the season tickets. This was something that was really important to us and is important to everybody. And I know there's various group chats that I'm on that are people that are talking about it and wondering what it will be. Now, I believe there's work going on behind the scenes that has to put the proposal before it gets to Nathan's desk. I believe that hasn't got to Nathan's desk yet. I believe that is the case. And why would it? Because it's February. So that's the renewals don't really come out till March, April too. You don't really get much information. But I can categorically say how important it was that they got this decision right. What I said was the price for me needs to reflect how badly they've got it wrong. And it also needs to, as I think Sooty said, to be able to entice season ticket holders that are previously priced out, local working class people. So working class people, get them back to the club, fill those empty seats, a price that basically says, we're sorry, we've got it badly wrong. I mean, we're going to ask for stupid pricing that's just unrealistic. But I think, we really push for something on those lines of, we got it wrong, we want people back, your support is important. Your support is important.
Yeah, I'm going to steal that claim from Sooty, because it was myself that brought up the working class and the amount of really good people that we've lost, within South Bank and being priced out. We gave them credit for the £1 Bournemouth things and said that we need to see more of that and that type of kind of activation, because they are the future of our club, and ultimately, they need to be getting in and seeing football for a decent price. But it kind of felt like they wanted to give us a nugget around season ticket pricing. You can absolutely tell that they feel the tension on that. They are absolutely aware of what's kind of going on.
We pressed hard on that, and
like unbelievably hard. Yeah.
Yes. We pressed very hard on that.
So, I think if Nathan had a look at this, or it had landed on his desk prior to that meeting, then I think that potentially we would have been able to come out with something. But at the same time, one of the things that Nathan wanted to make really, really clear is he still has a belief, or did at that point, that we could still be a Premier League club at the end of this season. And so the one thing that he didn't want to do was obviously come out with, if you like, Championship season ticket pricing.
While we're still playing Premier League football.
Yeah, while we're still playing Premier League football, and that was going to demotivate the players even more than they already are. Those weren't his words. Those are my words. But he doesn't want to talk about the Championship until it's a certainty.
And that's fair. And I think you talked about that, Nocky, because the season is still going on. People are still coming to the games. We're still in the FA Cup. We are going to get relegated. We're probably not going to win the FA Cup. But we've still got people like all of us that pay for our season tickets, that still want to see the team doing the best. And negative talk about the Championship, although probably realistic, you still want to give people an opportunity to do their best and play. So I completely understand that. We are 1 hour, 14 minutes into episode 154 of the Wolves Report with Nui, Nocky and myself, Ryan Lester. It's almost bedtime. It's Sunday night. It's almost bedtime. Nocky, you've been observing, jotting notes, thinking. Any final cutting questions, tricky questions for Nui and I before we go on to predicting the Chelsea game?
No, not at all. I think you've both articulated it really well. I think as far as the season tickets, you can't wait till we're officially relegated, because your renewals need to be out by then, so they're going to have to cross that bridge at some point in the near future. But no, I think well done for what you've done, and I think that the majority of the fans are going to absolutely back you for this. So thank you.
Much appreciated. As I mentioned, episode 154 of the Wolves Report on Saturday afternoon at Molineux is another return of Pedro Neto. Can't wait. Wolverhampton Wanderers face Chelsea in another rare 3 o'clock kickoff game. Nocky, I think we might have a few interesting new players by then, and the team might look a little bit different.
I would think so. Yeah, I think there'll be some business done tomorrow. I think we'll clear out some of the deadwood and get a bit of money in the bank as well. So I do think we'll look different. I mean, the game's going to be dependent on which Chelsea turns up, isn't it? They're the first half Chelsea against West Ham, or the second half Chelsea. They're on their day they can be brilliant, but they can also just switch off and not bother. So yeah, it's going to be a difficult game. On paper, you expect them to win, but again, it's very dependent on what they do.
No, I feel like this is a game that suits Wolves more because there's no pressure. There's a big team. They spent billions of pounds with some superstars. They won the Club World Cup. Next year, they're probably going to be likely to be challenging for the Premier League, not this season. This, for me, is a free hit before we go down against the superpower.
I think every single game is a bit of a free hit for us right now, to be completely honest. Yeah, I mean, they're obviously a great side. It's going to be another tough one, another tough watch. I think the squad, the team might be completely different to kind of what we've seen, and I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. I think we need a little bit of freshening up in there. I think the one thing that I would say is, as we always do, let's try and get behind them, especially if there are new players within the squad. We don't want to necessarily start their Wolves career with toxicity around, and we want to be able to show that. So yeah.
I'm actually quite looking forward to it. I love my football team and it's been miserable and I didn't really enjoy Saturday. But although there's a possibility that Chelsea could do some serious damage, I'm really looking forward to it. Let's just go and enjoy our football team and see what happens. We're almost at the end of the show. It's time for prediction time with our new favourite bit of the show that I know you absolutely love, particularly Nocky. So this week we'll start off with Nui. Nui, after the drum roll, please give me your prediction. First scorer and goal scorer, please.
7-0 Chelsea. Pedro Neto, best scorer.
Yeah. And we were saying we were paid off in the meeting. Good God. Nocky.
I haven't had a drum roll yet.
Come on, Ryan.
Sorry, I've lost for you 7-0.
I'll go for a kind 3-0 Chelsea. It's obviously going to be Neto, but I'll go for João Pedro instead, just to...
So on a Sunday night after a disappointing game, I've got an aggregate 10-0 defeat so far. Do you know what? I don't believe it, but I'm going to say it. And you always say to me, Knocker, yeah, I'm the hope because I never give up. Well, let's go 1-0 Wolves. Who's going to be one of our new players, Nui? Which new players do you think will be starting?
Armstrong.
Say again?
Armstrong,
1-0 Wolves. You heard it first on the Rules Report. Nui, thank you so much for being part of the show. Hope you come on again soon. Nocky, thank you as always. I hope this has been entertainment on your Sunday evening. Not just you, Nocky, everybody else. You can catch up on X, Facebook, YouTube, and later on Spotify. Of the Wolves.